Welcome back to our conversation with Fort Worth Mayor Mattie Parker. Mattie, I wanted to talk about the political climate.
Okay.
There are different levels, of course. There's national, there's state, there's county, there's local. Mm-hmm. You're in a nonpartisan seat, for one thing.
Yes.
And then I feel like you've always operated in a very pragmatic, like nonpartisan relationship building, coalition building kind of way. And I know that's getting harder and harder. I see you getting criticism and pressure from the right, and I also see you getting it from the left as that kind of becomes more and more a part of the scene. So I'd love to hear your kind of analysis of all of this, like what's happening and what's it like, what are you seeing and experiencing?
Well, I think in many ways, our political structure in the United States that's really built on parties and primaries and Republicans and Democrats, and frankly, parties that are evolving rapidly about what they really are, what their value systems are. Really, our system really struggles with what to do at a local level or any government level where partisanship is not attached to your name, right?
Yeah.
And we are certainly not immune from that in Fort Worth. When I ran in 2021, I felt it acutely. It was very much, division of the city based on political party. Unfortunately, I think it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
And yes, that is because of our national rhetoric being so toxic, but it's also because the loudest voices, that I've said this numerous times, that are on the very ends of our parties, call it far right or far left, are the loudest. And the silent majority of America here in Fort Worth are not the ones that are present and yelling and screaming or on social media. And so to govern through that, yes, is very difficult because we're all human, and you can sometimes fall victim to feeling like you made a wrong decision or struggling with the decision because of the noise. But at the same time, I feel a sense of responsibility as mayor to attempt, when I can, to make pragmatic, reasonable decisions that do build consensus and that somehow meet in the middle. And that's really out of necessity too, Brent, because I'm on one vote on the council, right? To get anything done, you have to have a coalition. And I'm very fortunate right now to have a coalition of great people to make decisions on behalf of the city of Fort Worth that I believe are continuing us in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does the like toxicity of the sort of national political discourse trickle into like daily life as mayor in Fort Worth?
Sure. Well, first I'll just speak to my opinion across the country is I think it's incredibly dangerous, and I don't think it, I know it. I mean, you've seen that happen. I mean, we're on the heels of some of the most violent incidents affecting elected officials in our country's history. And, from the assassination to Charlie Kirk, to the assassinations in Minnesota of the Portmans. And you've got examples from Governor Shapiro to Nancy Pelosi's husband, the assassination attempt on President Trump. Unfortunately, both parties have seen it happen. You've got extremists on both sides. And it does feel dangerous. I was just in Oklahoma City with fellow mayors to celebrate and be together and really talk about issues facing our communities. And this was a big topic, right? How do you keep your family safe? And there was the mayor of Louisville, Kentucky, who at the time was just a candidate, had someone walk in his campaign office and shoot a firearm at him 6 to 7 times. And just by the grace of God did he live through that incident. And it's something that I think long-term will have a chilling effect on those willing to serve. How does it affect your day-to-day? I have a great team around me and a great family. And for the most part, I have a normal existence as mayor, whatever normal looks like, right? It's busy and focused on the right things. And I'm an incredibly involved mom and wife. And so that dominates my day also. But I worry about fellow elected officials. I worry about our sense of responsibility to speak differently. And you also have to take threats very seriously because you can see them acted upon really across the country on a daily basis.
Yeah. I've never been an alarmist. I don't think you are. But it feels it does feel that way now, that it's something you have to at least to take seriously.
You do.
I've been thinking a lot about it. It's the cycle of hatred or contempt that just feeds on itself.
And our lack of humanity for each other and sense of empathy.
Yeah.
That was That to me was the most troubling aspect of the most recent assassination, which was Charlie Kirk. I think you could also say the same thing for, I felt the same thing, especially with Governor Shapiro's situation in his home. And it's also anti-Semitic, so it rose to that level also. But the lack of human empathy we had for someone, or for individuals, for families who could have been killed, were killed, and gosh, because my reaction was just heartbreak. Absolutely. How would that feel, right? It's the same. I felt the same way when our Supreme Court justices had protesters on their lawns, and that is just, it should be considered unacceptable in every single circle, and we need to get back to that for sure. But to your point, it does feel like we're at a heightened pitch right now. And I know that social media and the online world is definitely not helping.
I was reading something yesterday about this Paul Farmer. He's a doctor, traveled the world. He's kind of known for traveling the world, the poorest places, and like trying to bring healthcare solutions to the poorest people, and working with the governments and bureaucracies and all that to try to make that happen in places like Haiti. And there was a biography about him, and the biographer said that he practiced what she called a hermeneutic of generosity, which like hermeneutic is actually a biblical studies term, but like interpreting. Interpreting people's actions from an assumption that their motives are good, and even when you're tempted to think the opposite. And I feel like that, you're talking about humanity, like seeing people with humanity, like that's what I feel like we're not interpreting people with generosity. We're just.
That's really good, and that's a good. That's a good lesson for me. You can touch the flame so many times before you're like, I'm not touching the flame anymore. And from your perspective, to approach things with a sense of generosity towards humans is really important. I do think that's an important lesson. Well, I think we're all struggling with this. I was sharing with you before we came together again. I read a book recently that's worth reading, especially those that are serving in government, and it's called Performative Outrage. And it's
I love that title.
Brooks Williams, who is a city manager in Ferris, Texas. And it's a short read, easy to get through. And the whole thesis is what I'm experiencing on a daily basis. Everything is a performance. It's about how many YouTube clicks you can create for yourself, or you generate interest in your podcast or whatever it may be. And it's not about the actual act of governing, and no appreciation from those that are performing for building consensus and bringing people together. And focusing on the issues for me in Fort Worth that actually matter to the city of Fort Worth and the things that we can actually control. And that gets really old, and people lose patience for it.
I got off of social media finally during, I think, the first Trump presidency, because I just couldn't live with the constant outrage.
It is so true.
And the feeling that I'm supposed to be outraged.
And do you feel like you missed anything?
No, I have not.
No.
I've got some people that I knew in kindergarten that I don't know where they went on vacation this summer.
Dang it, we should call them and ask them, I guess. We've got any tips.
Yeah.
I know, it's really true. It's the same thing, have you read The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt? And I obviously have young children, and I really think about that a lot too. But adults should apply the same way. And how do we reevaluate the American success story and get out of this loop that we're in right now? And I'm still very hopeful about that, right? And I'm very fortunate to be mayor of this city and live in this community. But we still have to be vigilant about what it looks like right now.
I feel Fort Worth has a tradition and culture of not being so caught up in that, but it feels like we can't avoid it completely these days.
Absolutely. And I worry about it also. It is comfortable to stay in your bubble.
Right.
It feels good to be in your bubble of safety and normalcy and the things that are familiar to you, and man, people like you, and you have your routine. And as mayor, I don't have a bubble anymore, and I miss my bubble some days, right? But it's also dangerous when we've now retreated to only Fox News or only CNN or only this late night show. I mean, that is not that doesn't move the needle. And so I worry about that too.
I heard somebody say recently that partisanship allows you to outsource your judgment, and so like you're saying, Fox News or CNN or whatever, like you don't really have to think anymore about what's right.
They've told you.
Because you just have to be told, and if your team likes it, you like it. If your opponents don't like it, you don't like it. It's just, you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's got to be exhausting sometimes to try to lead a city in a way where you're not outsourcing your judgment.
It is.
But
you also, it's very important, and I do lose sight of this sometimes, so I'll acknowledge that, but it is very important to remember that the loudest voices are not the ones really dictating where the city is moving.
Yeah.
And that it is really important for me to try to keep a cooler head when I can. And I'm allowed to lose patience. I'm human.
Sure.
But at the same time, try to lead with a certain level of dignity. Or as I tell my boys, just remember, you're out there representing the Parker family, so don't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
And that's true as mayor. I only have my integrity and well after this job is over, and I want people to be really proud of the job I've done.
Yeah. And I would say this behind your back. I mean, you really do a remarkable job with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're really doing that. And I know you're not perfect, but you're really doing that to a great degree. Yeah. To learn more about Fort Worth Education Partnership, check out our website, fortworthep.org. And we are on Instagram at FortWorthEP. What is the place in politics for someone like you right now?
Well, good question. I've gotten this question a lot.
Yeah.
I will be honest, I feel a bit homeless right now, politically. I get the question. I've gotten it from the first day I was elected. What are you going to do next? I don't know. I'm exhausted, right? Now I've been mayor for 4 years. What I know is the current system that we exist in, right, that requires primaries and mailers and messaging and all of that. I have been very fortunate as mayor. I got to chart my own way. Mm-hmm. And we've had our own message that I think was always hopeful and focused on the future of our city and the things that really mattered to me and my family. And so I don't see a path right now for someone like me that feels that way, right? Yeah. And I also know that public service, I've done it for 20 years behind the scenes, doesn't require you to have your name on a ballot or to be an elected official. Mm-hmm. I definitely have a newfound appreciation for the bully pulpit I've been given as leader of this city and mayor at this time. But I'm also okay with God surprising me on what that looks like and a full acceptance, and I'm not worried about it at all. You know, do I wish it was different? Yes. Sure. And I also know this is important for me to get across. I say this a lot in certain audiences. Our cynicism as a country around government and government officials, elected officials, is not healthy. It's the foundation of our country and our democracy. Yeah. And so don't be so cynical. Most people that serve in elected office are good people. They're there for the right reasons. Right. Now, I do worry, back to this conversation we had about toxicity and the level of outrage we're seeing, and I worry that good people will stop running because why would you? I'm going to go build my business and raise my family, right? Yeah. But Fort Worth in particular has been incredibly fortunate to have public servants. Just take mayors, for instance, from Bob Boland to Kay Granger to Mike Moncrief to Betsy, people that were going to serve their tenure as leader of the city, and they had councils alongside them. So we need to focus on that for sure. And I don't lose sleep worrying about what may or may not be next for me. Yeah,
that's good. Besides education, which we've talked about a lot, what are big things that you're focused on these days in Fort Worth?
Well, these are things I'm most proud of too, because, well, first of all, I had the benefit, having worked alongside elected officials, to see what works, what is longstanding versus what goes away immediately. And so I've really tried to focus on the initiatives that I felt were, yes, connected to me personally and I cared about, but also things that I knew our community needed to tackle and grapple with. And they do kind of a wide range. We talked a lot about education the last time we were talking, and I also have had an emphasis on maternal infant health in our city that's on the cusp of some really great innovations across North Texas, which I'm really proud of. And because of our partnership with philanthropy and hospital systems, it has some potential.
That's another example of what we talked about before in the last episode about education, is just learning the reality of the numbers of what's happening sparked action. And the numbers on maternal health were shocking.
Well, and we've talked about this forever. Why do we have such a high mortality rate, especially for Black mothers in Tarrant County? Why is 76104 so problematic? Yeah. We have all these amazing healthcare systems and NGOs and individuals everything from doulas to THR, right? Yeah. So let's connect the dots, and we've done that. But it will be systemic and longstanding because of the partnership we have with philanthropy, NGOs, nonprofits, hospitals, city, et cetera, Tarrant County, public health.
Yeah.
If I shift gears to look at our work on Good Natured, which is focused on open space and green space protection and acquisition and conservation in Fort Worth, and as I joke that you're loving trees and clean air is not political, and we can all be, great stewards of our environment and care about Fort Worth, and we're rapidly growing. Our goal is to acquire or protect at least 10,000 acres over the first 5 years, and we're well on our way to do that. Again, something that has a lot of tentacles and a lot of different organizations to be longstanding moving forward. And the same thing would be true of the Mayor's Council on Education and Workforce. Is my name is not attached. It says Mayor of Fort Worth. Yeah. But that work, I hope, will be so ingrained and moving forward that it will make sense for city leaders to continue it well after I'm gone.
Yeah. What do you think is going really well in Fort Worth right now?
Well,
you've mentioned some things.
Let's first focus on back to numbers and facts. I know that in the United States today, if you're a city that's not growing, you're dying, and you're probably panicked. Where are our people? How are our businesses going to grow and not shut down? What does it look like to have no young families in a community? We have the opposite problem in Fort Worth. Now we're over 1 million people, and that comes, as I've said many times before, with a sense of responsibility. We can talk about all the struggles of growth, right? But we are keeping up, in my opinion, with infrastructure and public safety and a focus on a city that knows that we are over 1 million people and that we need to act like it and grow up a bit. But how fortunate are we that people have voted with their feet to live in Fort Worth? And that, to me, is the crux of our success, right? And I'll just pick out one specific topic that I think should be very proud of is public safety. And it's police and fire and code and all those organizations working together in departments to make us one of the safest large cities in the country. And just take policing, remember when I was elected, it was on the heels of 2020. I was elected in June of 2021. And I'd been friends with Chief Noakes for a long time, but we knew we had to really work across the community to make sure that we were pro-police, pro-community, building the force that he needed.
Because there were some issues that predated you being mayor.
Absolutely. Obviously, it started well before this, but the incident with Jacqueline Craig, and then, of course, the murder of Tatiana Jefferson. And I still reeling with that on the heels of George Floyd's murder. And all of that culminated into what could have been a city that turned its back on the police department. I ran on that issue, that was incredibly foolish and that we needed to support our police officers to 110% and actually lean in. And we've done that in Fort Worth. And we're on track to be fully staffed by 2026. I don't think there's another large city in the country that can say that. And we've even gone through a transition between Chief Noakes and now obviously to Eddie Garcia. And I think we should be proud of that also.
You can reach out to Mayor Mattie Parker and other city officials through their website, fortworthtexas.gov, and follow the mayor on Instagram @Mayor Mattie Parker.
As you look ahead, you've got, do you have a year and a half left?
I was just reelected in May. It's every 2 years, Brent.
What are you? What are the things like you really want to work on?
Yeah, it's the same thing we've been doing. I'm lucky now with 4 years and a city management team that I fully respect and think they're on the right track is continuing what's working in Fort Worth, fine-tuning the things that aren't, responding to the needs of our city. The unknowns, of course, are what are the impacts across the country that may trickle down and impact us here in the city of Fort Worth. And then also, what role can I play to turn down the temperature? Who can I work with that are consensus builders that are perceived to be on the other side of the aisle from me? Who can we kind of lay labels aside and really work together? And I don't have that answer yet, but I really feel a sense of responsibility with that.
Somehow lift ourselves out of this cycle of contempt that goes both ways. You're in a position to be able to do that
I hope
somehow.
So. So we'll work through that. That'll be something that's a priority for the next year and a half. So think about, and you and I were friends when you were at Broadway, right? And transitioned here. And as a faith leader, I've seen you sort of try to apply that sense into your work in education. You gave a speech at council just a few weeks ago that I think you got everybody's attention, right? Congratulations. Everybody was listening to you, right? But you have to feel that. So, what do you think about where we are as a country, and how do you try to lead also with certain sense of purpose?
Yeah. Every year for the past several years, I've been going to the council and talking about the education outcomes, and I was doing that in early September, I think. And I just had that feeling because I've been to a few council meetings. I've seen kind of what's happening there with the public comment and the anger and contempt that's really showing up. It feels to me more and more. I just felt like I wanted to speak to that in some way, and I did try to do that. And I think I'm not good at remembering the things that I say, but I think I tried to let's talk about honesty, like how are our kids actually doing? Let's be honest about it, and let's talk about truth, and let's talk about hope, which I feel like, and love,
which feels basic, but sometimes we forget those things.
In our current discourse, we don't talk about. It's very not hopeful. There's definitely not a lot of talk about love, and there's not a lot of talk about honesty or truth. I'm speaking to a gathering tomorrow, and I'm kind of having that same feeling. Like there's just something that we need to be speaking to this. Like we've got to somehow raise ourselves up out of this.
I don't know how
cycle.
you feel. Sometimes I, like you, speak extemporaneously more often than not, without remarks. Sometimes to my own own problems afterwards. But I've noticed more so in the last year when you speak that way, whether it's a large audience or smaller, and you talk about there are more things that unite us than divide us. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you don't have principles. Right. Yeah. And you don't care about certain things
or
deeply.
Or you have your head in the sand.
No. But people are drawn to that. I think we are, as humans, as Americans, we're really hungry for that kind of leadership. Yeah. And it doesn't just have to come, as you well know, from elected officials. It needs to come from a lot of different sources. Yeah. And I think, to your credit, I think that's a big reason why FWEP is so well respected right now. That people see your organization both as truth-telling, as hopeful, and bringing people together, and y'all deserve a lot of credit for that. And I think it's a good learned lesson for me too. Sometimes you just have to stand up and say the hard things.
Yeah, I think not taking the bait.
Sometimes I take the bait.
Yeah, I'm working on this speech for tomorrow, which is all about rising above this current moment. And this morning, which I went on to Facebook, which I don't even have an account anymore, but I went on through our FWEP account because I was wanting to see.
Does it like alarm go off when you're on?
Yeah, okay. I wanted to see something that we were posting, but someone had commented something like that I didn't like on one of our posts. And I went through this whole thing internally of all of my reactions to that, and I came up with like 4 excellent, really great reactions, that I was going to respond. Yeah. And then I just had to stop a second and remind myself, oh no, I'm just talking about this, about not getting caught in this cycle. It's just really hard. Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yeah. It's very, very almost addicting to get into that anger.
And I think for me, I attempt to be intellectually honest. Yeah. So back to social media, thank God you don't have that. Yeah. But if you do catch glimpses of things like that, or it's an email or a phone call, and for me, I can't get to everything, but I want so badly to be intellectually honest. And when someone is either being intentionally dishonest or have been fed misinformation, that's my tailspin, right? I do take the bait because then I just want to.
You want to
correct. I want to fix it. I want to correct it. Yeah. And sometimes I need to remember it's actually not my job to correct it. Yeah. What do they say? It's nobody's business what they think about you.
Yeah. And it's probably not it's not that they just need that one bit of information and then
it's the yarn's going to get pulled. Right. I know. So right. I'm going to remember that. Don't take the bait.
Yeah. I draw from, when I was pastor at Broadway was it feels like a different age, but it was a time when, the LGBT issues were really at the forefront, and we were a church, as you know, that's sort of on the front edge of those kind of acceptance of LGBT people, and just the drama around that we got.
Did you find it to be draining?
Yeah, and just from both sides, because of course we got a lot of hate from the more conservative that didn't want gay people to have a role in the church, but then we also would get it sometimes from the activists on the left, because we weren't doing everything. Yeah, we were doing what we could do. Right, and that I actually felt more defeating than the criticism from the other side.
Which, don't you think, I've thought about this a lot, That's why being a part of a fiefdom or a club
Yeah.
and believing what you're told, and that's what you believe, feels good because it's comfortable.
That's right.
Back to your bubble, like I know these people always agree with me.
That's right.
I never can step out. So when it's really a sense of boldness, really, to step out and have different. I mean, I hope I make everybody mad. And I've had people tell me, "You're so frustrating."
Yeah.
Like, oh, good, my husband agrees. Right?
That's right.
You know, why do we feel the need to constantly fit in a box? But it is because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes some courage, and it's hard
It
to
is.
do that. But
Absolutely.
I think I see you trying to do that.
I try.
So,
You know, it was weird when I was elected. I've always been an old soul since I was a little kid. And so this sounds trivial, but age never was something I really thought about when I was running. I never did. And then right before I was elected, the Star Telegram or somebody, it was Luke Ranker. Remember Luke with Star T? I loved Luke. Anyway, he wrote an article about I was going to end up being the youngest, mayor ever elected to a large city in the United States. And all of a sudden, then people really cared about how old I was.
Yeah.
I was 37. It became this number. How old's your child? How you take care of a 5-year-old, which really made me mad because no one asked a man that question, right? By the way, sometimes our rebuttal was like, I don't know. Actually, what do you think I should do with my kids? And then they were like, they head spun around 3 times. Anyway, I think, but then I had a sense of a mission, like a chip on my shoulder to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And women experience this a lot. Don't be too emotional.
Yeah.
Don't be a jerk.
Right.
Don't. And so I think now that I'm, been mayor for 4 years, I've kind of let that go a little bit, which has been liberating at the same time. But every once in a while I have someone come up to me and be like, I just didn't know about you. You're going to be look so young and you blonde and if you could do the job. And I try not to be insulted.
Yes.
But back to, don't take the bait. Don't have a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
That is something of all the things I've learned in the difficult moments of being mayor for the last 4 years, I'm thankful for that. It'll serve me so well.
That's right.
As I, embark on whatever adventures are in the future.
Yeah, and the integrity wins in the long term.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Very true.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
This
having
was
this
wonderful.
conversation. Yeah,
absolutely.
I really appreciate
Anytime,
it.
Brent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is a Fort Worth Education Partnership production. To watch Paying Attention, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also listen to Paying Attention wherever you get your podcasts.